Just finished watching episode 6 in season 1, and I have a lot of notes. So first things first is Father Khatri is the main focus of this episode. And it opens with him giving a sermon about faith and how it helps people see that they're part of God's plan and that this whole experience is also part of God's plan, which I find quite curious because they're in such horrible conditions. You would think that this is more related to hell than it is heaven. So that's an interesting thought that I had. Also, who did Father Khatri come there with? I am curious because we haven't really heard much about him or his past. So while he's giving that sermon, though, Tabitha is in the back. And after this service is over, she ends up walking up to Father Khatri, and they have a conversation about if this is real or if it's all just a dream. And Father Khatri reminds her that they were alive before the crash happened because they got to the town before they crashed. Tabitha also asked Father Khatri if he had seen Sara, and he lies to Tabitha, tells her that he has not seen Sara, but we find out that Sara is locked in the basement of the church, and Father Khatri has seen her. While Sara is down in the basement tied up, Father Khatri tells her that there are no Bibles in this town, even though there are other books in the town. And he reveals to her that there are 73 books in the Bible, and he thinks that this could be the 74th book. And that hence the title, Book 74 of this episode. While he's talking to Sara, he tells Sara that he thinks that she will be able to maybe help them escape since she has this connection to the town that no one else has. And she tells him that the voices knew things that she didn't know beforehand. So the voices had warned her that the 2 cars were coming. And so he asks her, what else do the voices know, just to make sure that she's just not crazy. And she tells him that the voices told her that he had buried a bag when he first arrived. Now, later in the episode, you find out that he did bury a bag. He goes and digs that bag up, and it had alcohol in it, along with bloody clothes in it. Boyd isn't in this episode a whole lot, but one thing that I did find peculiar is that I have previously said that I think that this could be like a parallel universe where people are in this little realm of area to try to correct their past mistakes from like their reality. And I have noticed that Boyd tries to be a dad figure to Kenny, but not only just a dad figure, but a better dad than he was to Ellis. So in this episode, Boyd tells Kenny that he's going to end up going to the forest and he's going to see if he can kind of find an escape plan for them. And Kenny gets upset about that. And in order to like apologize to Kenny, Boyd ends up playing catch with him with a baseball. And they're like having like dad time, whereas you do not ever see him, or you have not seen him do that yet with Ellis. Also, Boyd made a point. He said, if you don't learn from your mistakes, you are bound to repeat them. The Matthews family is introduced in this episode. Jim is sitting at a table and he is messing with the phone cord. And he makes a point that says the phone cords do not have wires. And he is curious about how the lights are working without being connected to electricity. So as he's telling Tabitha this, Jade walks in. And he said, oh, you notice how unusual the cords are too, that they don't have wires. And Jade tells Jim that he has an idea and that he needs his help. And so the idea is putting an antenna at the top of the tree so then they can maybe get signal to tell somebody that they're there and they need help. So they go around trying to find wires and batteries and such. And once they finally get everything put together, they go find the nearest tree that's tall. And while Jim is up in the tree, Jade is like looking up at Jim, and all of a sudden blood just starts spilling down the tree. And as soon as the blood spills down, he sees all of these dead bodies all around him that are also bloody and looking horrifying. And then he sees that one symbol that he's been seeing. And as soon as he notices the symbol, all of a sudden out of nowhere, the soldier that he has previously seen starts shooting at him. So he starts running in a panic and all of a sudden trips. And he wakes up to Jim telling him it's not real. There is nothing there. So Jade ends up calling the whole thing quits and goes to the diner instead of like trying to get signal for the radio. And Jade starts drawing that symbol over and over again. And while he's in the diner, Kenny's mom notices that symbol. And so she takes him into a storage room in the diner and shows him a notebook full of a whole bunch of those symbols. And so he realizes that he's just not hallucinating. Jim then continues his mission on to try to figure out if they can get signal or not. And while he does not speak to anybody, he does think that he has a potential signal. Speaking of that storage room and the diner, full of other people's stuff that have previously died in Fromville. And Tabitha has a box that she wants to put into the storage room because they just moved into the people's house that had passed away in episode 1. And so she's just kind of getting rid of all of their stuff and putting it somewhere else. So while they're in the storage room, Ethan talks about the Chromonacle and how there was once this lonely dragon that lived in a room like the storage room. And it had a whole bunch of lost treasure in it. And one piece of the lost treasure was a map of the rainbow sky. And that is the way that the Chromonacle who was lost was able to get home. He says maybe they'll find a map to get home too. Now, Tabitha is just putting stuff away, just kind of looking around. And out of the corner of her eye, she sees this bracelet. And her entire demeanor changes. And when she sees the bracelet, you can tell that there's something about it that's odd. So after they leave the storage room, they go home and she has the bracelet on the table. And all of a sudden, the lights start blinking in her house. And so she is curious about where the electricity is coming from. And so she just starts demoing the wall just to see what the heck is behind it. Jim later comes home and he finds Tabitha digging in the basement. And when he goes down there, he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm figuring out where this electricity is coming from because it just does not make sense. And then she also brings up a bracelet that he lost the night that Julie was born. And he remembers the bracelet and she said, turn around. The bracelet's right there. And Jim immediately dismisses it. And he's like, no, it could be like a similar one. And she reminds him that there was a specific mistake that she made in the bracelet. And he told her that accidents are the best part because it means it is one of a kind. So after that happens, he starts digging with her because I think that just freaked him out because whatever the bracelet, there was like a stone that was missing or chipped or something. And once he's seen that, he was like, okay, maybe this is my bracelet. Early on in the episode, finds a bouquet of flowers. And the way the episode ends is that one of the citizens in the colony house actually was making those bouquets for one of the demon girls outside. And he goes up to the bathroom and opens the blind. And the demon girl tells him that the flowers are beautiful, but she really wants to come in. And that's how the episode ends. Now on to episode 7.